Good morning. It's Monday, July 12th, 2010. My name is Jim Mayola. We're in the Express studio of the Community Media Center, and it is my pleasure to be interviewing Miss Thelma Gross. Let's start with, what year were you born? You just celebrated a birthday.
Yes, I was born in June 12, 1913. In Baltimore City, in the hospital, which no longer exists.
Okay.
South Baltimore Hospital.
Baltimore in 1913. Did you grow up in Baltimore City?
No, I didn't. We moved to Baltimore County quite early.
Okay.
But I do remember that in the house that we lived in Baltimore City, we had gas lights. No electricity, nothing like that.
So
we had gas lights.
And you would light the gas lights in the evening?
Light the gas lights in the evening, and the streetcars was the most transportation
Very interesting.
that you'd have.
And how old were you when you moved to Baltimore County?
9 years old.
Okay, so you actually did spend some time as a little girl in Baltimore City.
Yes.
So you were in Baltimore City until probably 1922, 23, something like that?
Yes, something like that.
What was Baltimore City?
Wait a minute, I guess so.
Yeah. So what was Baltimore City like for a little girl in the 20s?
We would bounce balls, play with dolls, play with paper dolls. Paper dolls were very big.
Very popular.
And, run, jump, do all the things that young kids do. But there were no playgrounds as such.
Okay.
There were no organized things except in the Catholic Church for one day on Saturdays. In the Catholic Church, they had physical ed for everybody. And we had horses and the balance beam and that sort of thing. That was one day in the week that was organized. That's the only thing that I remember that was organized.
Otherwise, you played on the streets then?
Right. Played on the sidewalk. Yes.
Was there
or in the backyard. We did have a backyard.
Sure. Was there a lot of traffic in those days?
Very little.
Very little.
Very little.
Now, did you live right downtown? Do you remember the address?
I remember the address. It was on Milton Street or Milton Avenue. And it was in the 1500 block. It was not too far from Gay Street, which runs down there. Not too far from Hoffman Street, where I lived. It was in, I suppose, the eastern part of Baltimore City.
Part of the city's really changed, hasn't it?
Yes.
Have you gone back to see what the house looked like?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have moved around the country so much that I just haven't gone back.
Sure. What did your parents do? What kind of work did they do?
My dad was a newspaper man. He worked for the Baltimore Sun.
Oh, okay.
For 41 years. And Mom just stayed home and took care of the family and the house.
And how many brothers and sisters?
I have one brother and one sister.
Okay.
I had.
So your dad worked for the newspaper and took care of a family of 5 and did fine.
And he made, when he first started out, $18 a week.
$18 a week?
Yes.
Wow.
And my mom told me when we went to the store, she said, at that time, when he was making $18 a week, she could go to the store and buy a pound of pork chops for 10 cents.
No kidding.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what your rent was then? I mean, I don't know.
Well, they bought the home.
Oh, they did? Okay.
But I don't know anything.
You don't know what the mortgage rate was?
No, I don't.
Can you imagine?
But it couldn't have been very much to support a family of 5 on $18 a week, you know.
Amazing. And that was probably good wages back then.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he was doing all right. Did he walk to work or did he catch the streetcar?
No, he took the streetcar.
Okay.
And I remember one time we had a very bad snow and he had to walk all the way home
Wow.
because the streetcars stopped running.
They stopped running. Did you ever remember riding the streetcars as a child?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Tell me about that experience. What was that like?
It was very unpleasant because the streetcars had a definite smell like rubber burning.
Yeah.
And it was very unpleasant. Right. I remember my brother always got sick on the streetcar.
No kidding.
So I'd have to get off if he was with me. We'd have to get off and walk because he couldn't.
Yeah, he couldn't stand the smell. Yeah, there's a smell that is associated with the leather and the rubber, and then there's the electrical part of it because if you've ever done model railroads, you can smell that smell. It's that kind of a smell. Yeah, very strong. Very interesting. Yeah. So then when you were 9 years old, so you went to school, you started school in Baltimore City,
Yes,
though.
I did.
Where did you go to school?
School number 85, and my cousin was also in the same school. They lived quite close to us.
So you went to the first, 4 grades? First, second, third?
Yes, yes.
In Baltimore. And then you moved out to Baltimore County. What was that like?
That was very interesting. We lived at the end of the streetcar route. The streetcar turned around and went back down. And we had a cottage. It was very nice.
Was this in Reisterstown?
I beg your pardon?
Reisterstown?
No, Overly.
Overly, okay.
Overly.
But you were still in a community. You
Yes.
weren't in the country. You were in a
We
like
were
a
in
town.
a community. Yes, we weren't in the country.
And so you started a new school
Yes.
in the 5th grade, so you were about 10 years old.
Right.
And how was that? Was it? I'm sure it was different.
It was not too different, no. It was very nice. I had to make all new friends, of course.
Sure.
And then when I went to high school, I went to Towson. And we were bused there, of course. And that was interesting because you met all new people and you had to make all new adjustments, and it was very, very nice.
What year did you graduate from high school?
1929.
1920. The year of the stock market crash.
Right.
Wow.
And I can tell you that in the classes, we began to get a lot of new students because there were parents who couldn't afford then to send their children to private school, but they were all going to public school. So we met a lot of new people.
So even as a child, when you were, well, not a child, but as a young person, about 17, 18 years old, you started noticing some changes in our culture where parents and families couldn't afford what they used to be able to afford.
Right.
And the economy was already starting to turn
It
around.
was very bad. It was very bad then. I remember one girl that I know was in a convent school, and she came to school dressed like you would dress in a convent school with all black on, black stockings and black shoes, until she acclimated herself and knew that this was not the thing to wear to school.
Right, yeah.
But, and then we had quite a number of boys who came.
So you graduated in 1929. How large was your graduating class? Do you remember?
It was less than 100, I know. It was less than 100.
And that was Towson High School?
Yes.
And Towson is a huge area now.
Well, there were 4 high schools at that time in Baltimore County. Towson, Sparrows Point, well, Dundalk, they call it, Catonsville, and Hereford. There were 4 high schools.
Wow. What did you do after high school?
After high school, I went to teachers' college. Well, it was called normal school then. And that was 2 years. And then I graduated in 31.
Okay. And after that?
Then I got a job teaching in Parkville.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 week after I started teaching, my sister was driving me to Towson because I wanted to pick up some supplies.
Mm-hmm.
And someone hit us, and we had a very bad accident. I was thrown out of the car and had a bad concussion. And at the time, I had a fractured kidney, but nobody knew it.
Right.
And didn't decide on it.
Yeah.
They took x-rays of my head and didn't take x-rays of anything else.
Oh, no.
But it took me quite a while. And I did go back at the end of the year
To teach again?
to teach again.
What grade were you teaching?
Fourth.
Fourth grade. Okay. 9-year-olds.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice age then.
Yeah.
Then.
So how long did you teach?
Altogether, I taught 41 years, but they weren't in Baltimore County.
Right.
I taught in Prince George County because my husband was going to University of Maryland. So I taught in Prince George County. And then he was in the Navy, so I taught in California, Montana, Colorado.
Wow. You've gotten around.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, being a military wife will cause that to happen.
Oh,
won't
yes.
it? Yes.
Well, that was because of World War II.
Tell me what it was like in Baltimore County during the Depression.
Very bad. Very bad. Our neighbor, who was a builder, lost his business. He had 5 children, and we tried to help everything we could. They survived, and he did labor work and everything that he could do to support his family.
Sure.
But it was rough. It was very rough.
And I guess you saw a lot of that in the community.
In the school, especially when I was teaching, there were children who couldn't find shoes to wear to school. I remember I took a pair of shoes off my brother's feet and gave them to a little boy in my class because it was wintertime and he didn't have the proper shoes to wear.
People were just getting by.
And people who would normally have supported their family well just couldn't find a job and were probably living hand to mouth just as they could. It was very rough.
Did you find that a lot of people in the community who were getting by would help those who were just getting by? People seemed
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
The communities would help each other.
So that lasted for a good while.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, the Depression hung around, they say, basically until World War II started. It was really tough times.
That's exactly right.
But you were teaching during all that time.
Yes, I was.
And then you met your husband. When did you meet your husband?
Well, I had gone to school with my husband, and so we knew each other. We had not really well, but we had known each other. Went to the same schools.
And you got married. What year did you get married?
In 1936.
1936. And then, was he in the military then?
No,
or
no, just in the military during World War II.
Okay. And was he drafted?
Yes.
Okay. And where did they have him stationed?
Well, he was in the Navy as Gob at first, and he went to, they sent him to Lakehurst. And he was learning to be an aerographer. And then he got a commission. And that was interesting because Well, the minute he got a commission, he couldn't go back to the barracks, you know.
Right.
So he couldn't get any of his clothing or anything else. All the sailors that lived there had to pack everything up for him. And they packed all his clothes, everything, and set it outside for him.
No kidding. And so then he got his commission, and he was relocated.
Relocated
to
Virginia Beach.
Okay.
Well, Little Creek, where they were going to put him on the ship for a gun crew. Before that was over, they put him back into civil affairs. So he went to the University of Virginia for a while. And then they sent him to Harvard to learn Japanese.
No kidding.
And that was rough.
I bet.
That was really rough. And from there he went to Boston. Was lovely. We were stationed in Boston. That was wonderful. Wonderful restaurants and the Scully Square with all the seafood. It was very colorful, very nice place to be. And we had a home with these people. We had an apartment with these people who were owners of a food market. And they were just wonderful to us. So they bought roast to us and just did everything very well.
So how long did your husband stay in the military?
Until 1946.
Okay, so
46.
he stayed right through the war then. He learned Japanese. Did he ever get to Japan?
Yeah, yes, he went to Japan, but he wasn't stationed there. He stationed in Korea.
Okay.
And he was in Korea for a year, civil affairs.
And
He got out into the countryside and did a lot of work with Japanese farmers. I mean, Korean farmers.
Now you didn't get to go
No,
with him there.
I could have gone if he'd stayed there. Some of the men were staying in Korea for work after the war, but he didn't. He came in and home.
After your husband got out of the Navy, what did he do for a living?
Well, first of all, he went back to school and got his master's.
Okay.
And then he worked for the Department of Reclamation.
Okay.
And then he and his brother decided they'd try ranching in Colorado.
Okay.
And that didn't work out very well.
It's hard work.
It is hard work. And, well, he knew hard work because he grew up on a dairy farm, but it was just a little too much. So he came back and worked for the Bureau of Reclamation again. And then he went back to teaching.
Okay.
He liked teaching, so.
Now you were in Colorado then, or did you move back here?
Oh, we moved back here.
Okay, and what year would that have been?
51, 52. I'd say around 55, 56.
Okay, so the
And
middle...
we stayed in Baltimore County, and I taught in Baltimore County until 56, 66. And then we moved up here in Carroll County.
So from 56 to 66, you were in Baltimore County and you were teaching, and then you moved up here to Carroll County. Whereabouts in Carroll County?
We lived in Frizzleburg.
I know exactly where that is. Have you lived there ever since?
No. We lived in Frizzleburg for 8 years, I think. We had a very old home. That was a nice experience. It was a beautiful home. It had been built in 1860. And we remodeled it all, and it was very nice. It had 22-inch stone foundation.
Wow.
And the inside walls were brick, all of them 9 inches thick. It was a beautiful home.
What was the origin of the home? Did you know? Did you ever?
Yes, the family that had built the home still owned it,
Mhm.
and they sold it to us.
Mhm.
And the man told us that the bricks had been made right there on the place,
Mhm.
and his family had owned it. However, they had let it deteriorate, and it was rented at that time.
Mhm.
And it had no amenities at all,
Okay.
like one spigot,
Mhm.
one couple electric lights,
Yeah.
but not many.
Yeah.
No indoor plumbing.
Right.
You know.
One cold water faucet was it? Yeah. Mhm. Very interesting.
But it was a lovely house. You didn't need air conditioning in that house.
I'll bet. Yeah, it was nice and cool.
Lovely porches, you know.
Mhm.
It was very nice.
So then, where did you move to, Mrs. Gross?
Texas.
No kidding.
Oh, yes, Texas. And we had a ranch, 75 acres. And now imagine, you see, we're 60 years old.
Okay.
We had sheep, 150 sheep.
Okay.
I like Texas very much.
Where in Texas? Because Texas is a big state.
We were in Round Mountain. Now that is like 12 miles north of Johnson City
Okay.
and south of Marble Falls, if you know. The Texas Hill Country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hills.
It's a pretty part of Texas.
Yeah, sure.
It is. The wildflowers are gorgeous.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But
Sheep raising is hard.
yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. But we had to build a house. We bought the end of a ranch, of a
Mhm.
large ranch,
Mm-hmm.
which was over 5,000 acres,
Mhm.
and we just bought the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
And all our neighbors had 5,000 acres.
Wow.
Or 3,300 or something, and we were the little guys sitting
Yeah.
there on the end.
Mm-hmm. How long did that last?
Well, until my husband died. And then I stayed 2 years, and
Mhm.
it began to get too much for me to cope
Mhm.
with because I was 80.
Mhm.
And fences and
Sure.
repairs and all this.
Yeah.
So I sold the ranch and came back here.
But your husband loved it. Your husband loved it. He
Oh,
loved the
yes.
farming. He was that
Oh,
was
yeah.
where his heart was. So that was wonderful for him.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Fantastic. Okay, but a
Mhm.
little bit too much for you by yourself.
Yes.
So you decided to come home.
Right,
Okay, so you came back to Carroll County
right,
again.
right.
Where did you settle this time?
In New Windsor,
Okay.
at I have a condo out
Mm-hmm.
right in New Windsor,
Okay.
and
The big city of New Windsor.
mhm,
Isn't it a lovely place to live?
it is. It's really
just-
lovely.
Yes. It's like going back in time.
Mhm.
Just so nice. What do you like about Carroll County? What can you tell me about Carroll County that you?
For
makes
me,
it
Carroll
special.
County means peace. I
Mhm.
don't know why.
Yeah.
It just means it's a lovely place to live.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a big city, but there are still amenities, you
Mhm.
know.
Sure.
You still have wonderful restaurants. You still have a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You still have good stores, department stores. You still have that.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have the clutter and the mess in the city.
Right. If you wanted to leave some advice for somebody who was just coming up today, somebody, let's say, because you had talked about getting out of high school
Yes.
when you were 18 years old. If
I
you-
was 16.
Okay, wow. Okay. And you were just starting out your life, just getting started as an adult. You had the whole world ahead of you, and it was a different world than it is now. If you were going to offer some advice to a young person who was just getting out of high school now or just getting out of college and getting ready to start a family and a career, what advice would you offer them?
Do the thing that you are happy to do when you're choosing your life's work.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are not satisfied in what you're doing every day, then you won't be ever satisfied.
That's wonderful advice. That's such good advice. If you're not happy with what you're doing, after a while, it
Nothing
becomes a
works
burden.
well.
Yeah. Yes, what great advice. Yes. What kind of changes have you seen? I know Baltimore is so much different than it was when you were a little girl. Huge changes there. But if you can think back to when your first impressions of Carroll County and the way it is now, can you think of what the most profound changes you've seen in the county? What are the
Possibly the more people,
mm-hmm.
more development,
Mm-hmm.
less of the farming community,
Right.
which I think was Carroll County to
Mhm.
me.
Sure.
I mean, it was an agricultural
Mhm.
community.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's more of the industrial type of thing moving in.
Yeah, we had a lot of agriculture. We used to have, everybody sort of lived off of the farm, especially when you were a little girl.
Right,
It was probably unusual. You grew up in a family where your dad worked for a newspaper,
right.
but many people were related in some way to farms and agriculture.
Yeah.
You said your husband was a dairy
My
farmer.
husband was,
Yeah.
yes. He grew up in a dairy farm,
Mhm.
and he lived in Baltimore County. And Baltimore County was rural then,
Mhm.
as Carroll County was, even more so than Baltimore County.
Well, it's been fascinating talking to you, Mrs. Gross. Is there any other stories that you'd like to share with us? Anything that you could think of that you'd like to share? Something special that might have happened to you as a little girl, or something that happened to you and your husband?
I'd like to tell you about the Indians that lived in Montana and Colorado.
I would love
I
to hear that.
became very interested in Indian culture and
Mhm.
Indian things
Mhm.
and turquoise jewelry. And the Indians in Montana were Sioux Assiniboine. And I have a school there that I still help support
Mhm.
for Indian children. It's more like boarding school.
Mhm.
But we had Indian boys who were my husband's helpers,
Right.
and we encouraged them to go to college. And one of our boys did, got there on a scholarship,
Mhm.
and one of the other boys who had been in the Army, he had been in intelligence. He was going to start ranching because the government would give him a bull and 5 heifers.
Mhm.
So he was going to start his ranch.
Mhm. At this boarding school, did they teach the Indians trades?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And how did you learn about the school?
Well, they had advertised for a teacher,
Mhm.
and I had applied, but I didn't realize that they wanted a teacher to live in the school.
Okay.
And it was 50 miles away. Of course, in Montana, 50 miles is nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you drive hundreds of miles to go to shop.
Sure. Yeah. But it was a little bit of a commute.
It was too much, and I didn't know how long we would be there working for the government. You
Mhm.
never know.
Mhm. But
So
you still
I
became,
still support that school.
Sure. Yeah. Very interesting. And so, what did you learn about the Indian culture?
Now, I was more interested in Colorado, too,
Mhm.
the Indian culture, the cliff dwellers,
Mhm.
you know,
Sure.
the Hopis and the
Right.
Navajos
Mhm.
have all these rules of diet, of marriage, of all. It is a cultural society, a ruled society.
Mm-hmm.
People think the Indians are wild. They aren't. They have better culture early than we did.
Mm-hmm. A very structured society.
Very,
Mm-hmm.
very structured. And beautiful, beautiful art.
Mm-hmm.
The rug weavers and the pottery makers and the jewelers. The jewelers are fabulous. And they used to use these little wooden drills
Mm-hmm.
to work on the turquoise jewelry.
Right. Everything was done by hand.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases it still is,
Mm-hmm.
in some cases.
So I understand, Mrs. Gross, that you had an opportunity to have tea with a celebrity. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, I had tea with Lady Bird Johnson in Texas.
You did?
A friend of mine belonged to the garden club that Lady Bird Johnson belonged to.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all invited to the ranch
Mm-hmm.
to have tea. And they were allowed to bring one guest. So I was invited. And we got to the ranch. Of course, the entrance is way down from the house. And there was a Secret Service man who we had to send in our name, address, and any information about ourselves beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So he checked us off the list. Each one of us, he asked, "What is your name?" You know. And there was a camera right there that
Mm-hmm.
took the pictures while we were entering. So we got to the ranch, and the house is not palatial.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very nice cottage,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very well decorated, you know. And there was a butler,
Mm-hmm.
and they had this huge, I suppose you'd call it, a bonus room, where Lyndon Johnson had all his saddles,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a bar there, and we had a very nice tea. Lady Bird is a very gracious person. She's very nice, and she made an effort to speak to everyone personally.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I enjoyed every minute of it.
I bet you did. So you actually got to meet Lady Bird.
Right.
How nice. Wow.
And she's a very gracious
She
person.
is. Yes, she is. Yes.
And she's done a lot for Texas wildflowers.
Mhm.
She has that big center to grow all the wildflowers, you
Mhm.
know, and get the seeds.
Mhm.
And Texas does a good job of planting
Mm-hmm.
wildflowers along the highways.
Right.
They're very beautiful.
It's a beautiful state. It's a big state.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Fascinating. What a great story.
Tell you another one.
Mm-hmm.
It'll illustrate what happens during the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
My mother and I were shopping in Baltimore City during the Depression, and she had bought me a pair of shoes. So he paid $5 for the shoes,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a lot of money
Very
in those
expensive,
days.
yeah.
So we went into this 10-cent store to get something, and I put the shoes down and turned around to buy it, and when I went back, there were no shoes.
Mm-hmm. Somebody
It was just a matter of seconds.
Yeah. Somebody had stolen
And
your
they
shoes.
were gone.
Yeah. Wow. Because somebody else needed them. Desperate. Mm. I bet your mom wasn't happy.
No, she was.
Because $5 in those days was like $50
It was
today.
money.
Yeah.
It was money.
Mm-hmm. Wow. But somebody was walking in style.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
We-
And you know what my mother said? Well, I guess they needed them more than we did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suspect she was right. Mm. You've seen some amazing things in your lifetime, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. People have no idea today how easy we have it as a society.
Oh, if you'd see how some of those Indians live out there, it's a crime. It's a real crime. And on the reservation, it's rough.
Mm-hmm.
Rough, really rough. And I can see why they have a lot of problems with alcohol.
Mm-hmm. There's no hope.
No,
Yeah.
there's nothing.
Yeah. The only hope they have is education.
That's
Get an
it.
education and get away.
And even if they get the education, if they can't get out of the reservation, it doesn't do them any good.
Right. Yeah. So sad. Yeah. But I think back to what you were saying about the Depression. You know, at that time in our culture, everybody was suffering. And we had nothing.
No.
I mean, people just were barely getting by. And today we have everything.
Yes.
And people are so...
People don't realize, I mean, I remember I was telling you about the family next door to us. The boy was graduating from high school and had nothing to wear to graduation, so he wore my brother's clothes
Mm-hmm.
to his graduation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that he could look presentable when he
Mhm.
graduated. When would this have been? What year do you recall?
My brother is 10 years younger than I am,
Mm-hmm.
so it would have been in the 30s, I
Mhm.
think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But at that time, people would share
Yes.
and people would help each other.
Yes.
So that's a change. That's a change that's happened
people
in our
don't help anymore.
Yeah.
As I was telling Lisa, I donate to Carroll County Food Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and they said they have had 6,000 people come in a month
For
for
food.
help.
For food. Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful that they're there.
Oh, yes.
But it's so sad that their business is booming. You know,
Uh-huh.
there's so many people that need assistance now compared to the way it was.
Oh, yes.
You know, a couple of years ago, they had half of that, and they were busy. I don't know how they keep up. I really don't. And I don't know where we're going.
I don't either.
Makes me very
I don't
nervous.
either. Things are certainly confused.
Mm-hmm. I hope we're not heading for another depression.
I don't know.
Because I'll tell you, Miss Gross, you lived through it, and you know what it
It
was
was
like.
rough.
It's not what we want to go back
There
to.
were people on the corners selling apples and pencils
Mm-hmm.
just to support their families. See, I should have said that, but I forgot that.
You just did. You just did. You'd sell apples and pencils for a penny or two apiece
Right?
to try to get enough money so that you could have
Right.
food for your family.
Right.
Yeah.
And that I know that people were riding the trains like hobos,
Mhm.
you know.
Hoping that they would get to
Get a
another
job.
place in the
Mhm.
country that they could find work and have a better life.
They're still doing that. I just read an article that men in the Middle West, where their employment is sometimes up to 22%,
Mm-hmm.
men are going out to other states and traveling back and forth on the weekends
Mhm.
so that they have a job.
Mm-hmm. So they'll go someplace else and work during the week
Right.
and then come home to their families on the weekends. It's not a good way to live.
No, it isn't.
Mm.
No, it isn't.
Well, again, Mrs. Gross, thank you so much for sharing your stories with
You're
me.
quite welcome.
They're very interesting, and it was a real pleasure to talk to you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much.